It was 1-0 to Galatasaray in the end. They nearly got a penalty. Liverpool nearly got a penalty in the last minutes of the game. It would have been huge if they could have got that.
Yeah, I just think, like, to be honest, they didn't really deserve it. The spells in terms of what we watched with their passage of play, they seemed passive tonight. They didn't seem their typical aggressive selves. Liverpool, when you watch them, especially under the Slot regime, have asserted themselves onto games almost from the minute one. You know exactly what you're into in terms of the high action, high ferocity, both on and off the ball. And they were just missing a lot today. It was a lot of wayward passes into the box, not much fluidity. Of course, you know what's going to happen on social media, Marco. We've seen it 1,000 times. The attention is going to be on the high-profile signings. You know, your Florian Wirtz, where's Alexander Isak? But to be honest, it's actually more of a team process right now. When you're looking at these sort of penalty decisions and what's given and what's not, I mean, it is what it is. You can't really be upset in terms of the VAR system is there to correct any sort of decisions that's happening on field almost instantly and to get a reaction from it. But Liverpool will be honest within themselves and know the standards that they set for themselves, especially over the last 12 to 18 months. That wasn't good enough. And when you go into the type of atmosphere what we was trying to allude to in the pre-game, like going to Turkey, like going to Galatasaray, it's going to be a struggle. You have to emotionally manage that type of environment. And I don't think at any point they put their foot on the ball and controlled the game and said, for 15, 20 minutes, we're going to take the crowd out of this. That didn't happen. So what then happens? Momentum builds. Then you lead to mistakes. And that's what happens. That's why you lose games in the Champions League. And this is a big game to be losing.
Which, by the way, we have to give Jaydee his credit. He said in the pregame that Galatasaray would win. Hannah and I, we laughed at you. I was going to reverse it and say it was the opposite way around, but I'll give you your credit where you do. And I think looking from the performance, it's the right result. Liverpool were slow. They were passive. Defensively, they've already had their issues this season. We've talked about it before. The new signings, as you mentioned, they never looked enough of a threat going forward. And I think it's the overarching story of the season where they were getting results, the performances weren't there, and we all sat here and we said, okay, which is true. It's a sign of a good team. A sign of a good team is sometimes winning when you're not playing well. And I think today it caught up to them. I think against Crystal Palace, it caught up to them. And there are going to be these moments in the season. You could talk about the atmosphere, but you have to have serious question marks about the lack of fluidity because you could lose games if the ball doesn't want to go in. Tonight, it was not that. Tonight, it was them not being the ones that could get into control of the match and could ever come back within a game. And then you see the injuries that they have, the injuries of the players going off. They've already been weak in the back line as well. So big question marks, but credit to Galatasaray. Galatasaray, a team that, like I said, counted out because watching what they did in the Champions League, even in the first match, I never thought that they could beat a Liverpool side. So credit to them and credit to Victor Osimhen for scoring the penalty kick.
You know, when we talk about the mentality of teams and how they decided or how good this team can be, you're about to find out how good Liverpool can be. Congratulations to Galatasaray.
Look at these scenes.
To enjoy the celebration on the pitch.
That's awesome.
But what you're about to see from Liverpool in terms of their response, losing 2 games in a week really does ruffle your feathers, right? And this is when you're leaders right now. I can anticipate. I've been in enough changing rooms and I've stood outside enough changing rooms as a reporter too, to know that when that changing room door is locked, it's time for the leaders to speak. You've got injuries, you've had absentees tonight, you've had high-profile signings, and you've had transition players, a lot of players getting used to this system. This is now the point where you rally together as a team because you got outplayed in the weekend against Crystal Palace. You haven't handled the game occasion tonight in terms of a Champions League away game against Galatasaray. What point do you turn around and say, OK, we need to set our standards a little bit higher? We can't just turn around and accept these type of mediocre performances and think that we can just cover over the cracks, as we say in England. It doesn't work that way. When you're the standard, everybody, every time, is circling your game and saying, I want to beat that team. They're the champions of their division. They know this. There's a target on their back. So it's about those players responding now. And
they reinvested heavily. And we're just not seeing the results from, I mean, Florian Wirtz is the guy that we're going to have a conversation about because you want to say he's coming over from a different league. You want to say you have to give him time. He's not the man, right? He was the man at his last club. At Liverpool, when you're signing so many different players, it's not going to only be on you anymore. And that probably changes the dynamic. But when you spend that sort of money, it's right for fans to be frustrated. I think it's very right for Liverpool fans to be upset without seeing goals and assists, without seeing a style of play, because so many times we're seeing Liverpool pass the ball between their back line, back and forth, without creating anything, without building up from the midfield. So these are serious question marks, but as Jaydee said, teams that want to compete at the highest level, and Liverpool will be one of those teams. They're one of the favorites for the Champions League, one of the favorites for the Premier League title. You have to see how you can respond for moments like today.
And I think, was it their first 5 games, they got last-minute winners in virtually all of them? And it's like we can't there's got to get a point where they can't keep relying on these 90th, 85th minute winners, and today clearly they couldn't.
Good point, Hannah.
I mean, we've been members of the media for how long now, right? Combined years. And you know, when teams are papering over cracks or talking about these last-minute goals or the statistics that go with it, they'll tell you the positives, which is it shows that we don't give up till the end. The fitness levels are there, the concentration that we have to create chances right into the last minutes. What we see as members of the media is the truth. You shouldn't be in that position. That's the truth of it, because you're the better opposition. You dominate most of those games. So to find yourself with the last-minute rewards is a congratulations. But when it starts becoming a pattern, you just have to start asking yourself, OK, so what are we doing for the rest of that 90 minutes? Why are we not finding ourselves in more comfortable situations? We can talk about the other domestic leaders and the other teams that are the favourites in this competition, and we'll see the convincing performances we've seen from them tonight. I've had question marks over this Liverpool team all season because there's been elements of them tactically that I think that they haven't quite approached correctly as of yet. And tonight was the night they got found out.
Let's talk about those injuries quickly that you mentioned. Ekitike came off injured, so did Alisson. Big blows for Liverpool.
And Ekitike is one of the, I know I categorized all the new signings and said we haven't seen some of them at their max. Isak is still trying to get back to full fitness. We know that Wirtz, we already mentioned. Kirkes is another one that we could throw in that category. Ekitike has been one of the ones that hit the ground running, besides the, the crazy red card that he gave, and then he actually hurts his team then at the weekend because he's not available. He's been one of the ones that is a bright spot, that has understood where he is. I think he's done better than even I expected to start the season, going from a different club. It's going to hurt them. It has hurt them in the past. Another guy that came and saved them a couple times in the last weeks is Federico Chiesa. Federico Chiesa came in and he showed this relentlessness, this grit, this hunger, and set up his teammates. He gets the 2 assists in the last time they played. Today, there was question marks why he wasn't called up. Then Arne Slot came out and said he felt a little something and they didn't want to risk him because Liverpool has to play Chelsea then at the weekend, which is a huge game, and they want to save him for there. So trying to find this balance, Arne Slot, it's going to be a difficult one. I think last year, for as great as they were, they didn't get that balance right, which was the rotations at times, always playing your exact same starting 11, and then the team doesn't peak at the right moment. So he's going to have to figure it out quick because, as we said, when you spend this sort of money, the expectations go to a new level.
But historically, he's always been that type of manager. That's what he's built his success on. Some managers, and I would say Mikel Arteta is one of them, that relies on more the squad depth. Arne Slot has predicated a lot of his success on, I'm going to keep consistency in terms of my starting 11, and building blocks go from there. So players very much know who's starting and who's not. This is the first time I'm watching it and I'm like, I don't really know. I'm sure he knows right now what his best 11 is or what he can trust in terms of certain situations. And they keep getting found out tactically in the same situations. It seems to be direct balls that's making a defence turn because of how high they want to squeeze. Well, what comes with that is, if you're going to squeeze the ball, your whole team has to go, so that you stop the opposition from being able to kick the ball over your head. That's that basic 101. That's called a simple counter-press. And what we haven't seen yet from Liverpool is their ability to understand in certain environments, if we're turned in terms of having to run back to our own goal, how quickly are we responding in defensive transitions? They're not responding well right now. And Arne Slot will know this. I've sat down with him. He's one of the coolest managers you will meet in the world of football because his understanding and depth of the game is brilliant. But what's even better about him, he's never too high and he's never too low. So he will know this is a blip. This is the first blip he's had as a Liverpool manager. How does he respond? On cue, look at my boy. Sharp, shoot.
I like him. Sit here. No, go. Come on.
Just stay there. Come on.
You know what's so interesting? Because we're talking about the counter press.
Like a reverse Oreo.
I actually feel like how is it reverse? I actually feel like you were one of the best I saw in terms of just as a generational player, in terms of understanding when to press and when not to press, yeah? Especially in the Premier League. So when looking at this Liverpool team now, do you feel like there's a bit of confusion as to when they need to go and when they don't need to go?
No, they haven't put in a good performance from the start of the season. They have not put in a full body. Liverpool have not put in a full body of 90 minutes performance. They've been very fortunate. Newcastle went down to 10 men, Newcastle did, and Newcastle still battered Liverpool. Bournemouth went to Anfield, gave them a game, pressed them and everything. They still come out of it. We gave them the compliment to say they're not performing or playing well, but they're doing what champions do. They find a way to win. Now that's slowly starting to run out now. Against Crystal Palace, far the better side. Crystal Palace deserve to win. Today, Galatasaray the better side. So I cannot say that Liverpool have put in a full bodies 90 minutes performance we've seen from the start of the season up to this point. They haven't. They've been very lucky. And we've given them the tag that we always say when it's a team that wins championships and titles, they find a way to do it. That's the truth, they do. But now they're finally starting to get exposed. I think the biggest thing for me with this Liverpool thing is chemistry. And today, it's going to be about Arne Slot and the team that he chose to start. Starting Szoboszlai right back and then Frimpong higher up the pitch. That's going to be things that people are going to question. And he tried to protect Frimpong and also Kerkez as his two new fullbacks that have come in, and protect them from the media that they're not finding it, they're not doing the right jobs, they're not doing what they're supposed to do, making too many mistakes. So I think that today it's more on Arne Slot and the team selection and why he chose that team. But take nothing away from Galatasaray. It's not an easy place to go and play and get a result, and they deserve to win today.
Nigel's just come in from the Golazo show. How was it, Nigel?
Oh, it was great. It was great to watch all the football.
There were so many goals, wasn't there?
So many goals, so many great games. But I think this is probably the result that people are going to talk about, because Liverpool coming off a loss as well on the weekend against Crystal Palace. But when you look at the overall picture, you've got to look at the bigger picture sometimes. And this isn't an individual case of what happened today generally. We can't sit here and say we've seen Liverpool play amazing this season. In any of their games from the start of the season to now, there's always been questions. And now it's really starting to come to the forefront.
It's exactly what we were mentioning before, what Jaydee and I were saying. Yeah. And I think that's why you have to take a broader picture. If it's an isolated moment, if it's a one-off moment, you could take that for what it's worth. I think to Nigel's point on getting the lineup wrong, right, from the start, that happens. There's managers all the time that they get it wrong. For me, what's surprising is the non-reaction. The fact that you don't have a response, even in the second half, that's what I was waiting for. We were watching the first half and we said, okay, they're not creating chances. The midfield looks like they're not able to build up. The defense was just passing the ball from side to side. You say, at what point do they get their action? At what point do they get the late goals, like you were mentioning, Hannah? That's the concern.
Well, then also you've got to start putting a bit more responsibility on players. I am, and I still was a big fan of Florian Wirtz. And I thought one of the best signings that Liverpool made. Fantastic player, going to be probably potential to win one of the World Player of the Year. But for me, he hasn't performed in a Liverpool shirt. He hasn't done it since he's gone there. Forget the price tag. I never get involved in that conversation because the players don't dictate their prices, the clubs come and pay for them. But they paid a lot of money for him. And with that, going to a club like Liverpool, there's high expectations, which he should be used to. He's a German international. He could have maybe gone on the verge to Bayern Munich. He still hasn't really performed enough for me in a level where you could say, OK, this is Florian Wirtz. This is why Liverpool got him. We can always say, oh, work hard, put tackles in. That's the basics. If I get an opportunity to be a manager or a coach, that is the basic I'm going to want from you to work hard.
What is it? Is it tactical? Is it technical?
I feel personally that I just don't feel that
Arne Slot has found the right way to put him in this Liverpool side with other players around him, because his job. He's a number 10 for me. Yeah, he's a number 10 that has to be in behind the striker. You have to have him in the middle of the pitch, on the half turn, in the final third, to make things happen. I'll make a comparison to Eze at Arsenal. Very similar. Eze is at his best when he plays a number 10 role. Florian Wirtz has to be a number 10. And I think that for me, you have to start putting a bit more responsibility on these players. They're not performing, really and truly. And he's one of the players for me that's got to that club. You talked about creativity and making chances happen. He's not making it happen.
Today's Champions Club is on YouTube, so you can comment down below all your thoughts and opinions on all the games. We're going to be taking a look at some of the comments. This is from Darren Ajay. Liverpool have been subpar this year compared to last year. I think what you were just saying, Nigel, compliments that.
100%. I mean, there's no denying it. Like I always say, I watch football with my eyes. I don't watch it with stats and XGs and goals charts. Yeah, I don't watch numbers. Don't lie. There we go. This ain't Moneyball. This is football.
And then the next one, this is Galatasaray. Welcome to hell. Jaydee, you were saying this literally before the game.
This has historically been one of the most difficult places to go to in Champions League. It always has been, because you know you're going to get a game. I cannot tell you the intensity. I've been to that stadium. I've stood on that sideline. I'm not even playing, and I'm scared. I'm sitting there looking at the intensity from the fans, how much it means to them. They're jumping out of their seat any half chance, every tackle, every moment. They really are on top of every aspect of the game. So it was about emotional control today, and Liverpool never had it at any point.
Yeah.